We're here in beautiful Veradero, Cuba. I'm with
Mauricio Castro, People to People Tours.
and we're going to give you a few of the ins and outs of why you should consider joining Mo on one of his great tours and how to best maximize this entire beautiful, intriguing, and changing island. Join us as we fill in the blanks. That's me, Phil, a simple Nova Scotia boy who moved to the bigger city of Ottawa, Canada many years ago. Picked up a camera and set out to visit as many ballparks as possible. My travels have taken me all over North America, from the majors to the minors to the independents and even Cuba. Please join me as I fill in the blanks on what makes baseball about so much more than balls and strikes. Get to Cuba before the Americans do. A popular refrain since the easing of sanctions by the US in 2014. However, lesser known is that select US tour groups have been visiting the island since the 1990s. One such tour operator is Mauricio Castro of Mo's People to People Tours. I joined Mo and a group of 16 American tourists in January 2017. Full disclosure that this video is an endorsement of his skills and tour offering, but I do recognize people have different travel styles and objectives, and hopefully everyone with an eye on Cuba can glean some advice on making the most of their trip. I joined Mo to provide photos and video, and we had a jam-packed itinerary. I arrived in Matanzas a few days in advance with the ambition of seeing playoff Cuban baseball. First Cuban lesson: calendars and schedules are more guidelines than gospel. The ability to roll with the punches is key. Have an ambition of what you hope to see, but recognize things often change. The positive of this is you frequently stumble onto other Cuban experiences you might not have known existed. I was greeted at the airport by Mo's local guide, who spoke terrific English. We quickly bonded, and I knew right away he would be an asset in navigating the sometimes confusing Cuban landscape. Mo's network on the ground is indispensable. There are essentially two cultures in Cuba, local and tourist. Your dollar still stretches, but watch how much further it stretches when a local can negotiate for you. It's the ultimate I know a guy scenario, and Mo knows the guys. The group flew into Havana, where we would spend 2 days and nights seeing all the great architecture, old cars, experiencing an authentic salsa class, and taking in the burgeoning club culture. Tourism is a major driver for Cuba, but it is still a third world communist country. That means they'll take your money, but they won't always be in a rush to do so. The restaurant scene is starting to boom, but food scarcity is still real. There are often two menus in Cuba, one for locals and one for tourists. Mo's relationships mean more often than not you eat from the more robust local menu. Many items we take for granted, such as toiletries, can be hard to come by in Cuba. Each journey, it is encouraged to bring donations. However, recognize that the government line is that no one goes without. Therefore, the donations often have to be received inconspicuously. This might seem like philanthropy under the cloak of darkness, but trust that any items will be put to good use. It is also encouraged to develop personal relationships where possible, as Cubans are typically very gracious and often pay the donations forward within their own community. This marked my third trip to Havana, and I still haven't seen everything I'd like to. People to People does offer extended stays in the capital. However, we were about to hit the road with stops in Villa Clara, Trinidad, and Cienfuegos before a few days of beachside therapy in Veradero. Venturing from city to city can be a chore, and finding lodging is now easier thanks to Airbnb, but still an inexact science. Thankfully, Mo handled this, which on the surface sounds simple enough until you realize that the internet, or Wi-Fi, is new in Cuba and, at best, unreliable. Meaning, the room you booked could be double booked without warning, or artistic license was taken with the star system. Not to worry, Mo always has a backup plan, and it's his job to worry anyway. It seems the world has discovered Cuba, and you have many travel options. Whatever you do, try to enjoy your trip, but have realistic expectations. Cuba is going through an evolution. I see changes every trip, much of it aimed at improving the tourist experience. But after talking to many people that booked their own trips, the consensus is they didn't feel they saw the real Cuba. If you want to see the real Cuba, travel with Mo and People to People Tours.